Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus, and welcome to another Monday. With me, as always, is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Well, good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome all listeners to Monday. Timstradamus, would you like to hear an interesting fact?
I would.
Well, the world's largest animal is a whale. Its heart weighs 400 pounds, that's approximately 181 kilograms, and their heart is the size of a piano. But I think the most interesting thing of all, you can hear its heartbeat over 2 miles away.
What a fantastic fact. For any new listeners, Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for thought.
Well. It looks like we have some more shout outs to make.
We would like to welcome our newest patrons, Katie Shea, Sherry Spencer, and Melissa.
Love and appreciate every single one of you.
Welcome to the Tea Club.
Well, Voyse, what have you brewed for me today?
This morning, I've crafted for you my fruity infusion tea. In it, I've placed a white tea that has apples, raspberry bits, strawberry bits, rose petals, and some marigold petals.
Ooh. Oh my, that's really good.
A delicious fruity infusion.
Oh, yeah, that's 10 whale tails out of 10.
Yes!
Exactly.
Well, while you enjoy your morning cup of brew, why don't we go ahead and delve into these stories? For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story, am I the a-hole for telling my sister that I'm worried her new running fixation is screaming pick me? My sister and I have always been very close, and we grew even closer during the pandemic when our family became basically deniers and we only had each other. About 4 months ago, her boyfriend of 5 years broke up with her really suddenly and didn't give an explanation. Then about a week later, she saw him out with a new girl, and after approaching them, he told her that he was no longer comfortable with her appearance because of her weight. My sister literally changed overnight and started going to the gym, getting up at 7 a.m. to go running nearly every day, and she even joined a running club. I've known her all my life, and this was not her. It's changed her so much that we don't get along anymore. I saw her yesterday, and she was talking to me about how welcome I would be at her running club, and it's such a great place to make friends. I said I wouldn't even run from a bear, and it's well documented that running is really bad for you long term. She says she used to think that too, but she feels better than ever, and she's made such good friends. I asked her, aren't most of the people in the club guys? She said yes, but they are so supportive, and she feels like she has several new brothers. More on this in a bit. I said, don't you think you're sounding like a massive pick-me at this point? She asked what I meant, and I said she's purposely seeking out a group of guys and doing something that is horrible for her health. It's literally exactly the same thing as girls going to frat parties and doing keggers. She said I really insulted her. I said, good. Maybe I'll put some sense into her. She said that she doesn't need to listen to me if I'm going to be an a-hole to her. I told her I will always be her big sister, and when being a pick-me blows up in her face, I'll be there for her. She said, "F you," and left our parents' house without even saying goodbye. Why the new brothers line is such a big deal is our brother passed away in his teens. This was such an awful thing for her to say and got my blood boiling. After that, am I the a-hole for being honest with my sister?
What a breachingly good story to start off Monday with.
Thank you.
So, let me make sure I understand where this is coming from. The OP is the older sister.
Correct.
All right. Do they say their ages?
They don't, but they do say that they're from Northern California.
Okay. Well, it sounds like our OP had a really good relationship with her sister up until a point. And this point is when her sister started getting healthier. What health means to every single person is varied and different. She says her sister got into a running program and hits the gym now. All right. Obviously, it came up from, I guess, someone making a comment, an ex-boyfriend to her. But regardless of where that came from, it put her sister in a different mindset and got her into something that she appreciates and enjoys now.
And apparently makes her feel better.
That, at the end of the day, should be the most important thing to our OP. Not this weird headspace that she's in about how I guess running is unhealthy for you, why be upset with your sister and make such a big deal out of things when she's doing something that's good for her? We're not talking that your sister's getting into some other extracurricular activities that are detrimental to your sister. These are benefiting her. So why as an older sibling are you detracting from it? Outside of maybe there's some, I don't know, jealousy? You hate when that happens and comes between family members because it really does show your level of maturity. The other thing that kind of bothered me was the fact that she's upset with her younger sister in finding brotherly figures in her life. Why is that a problem? I understand, and that's a very sad story that their brother passed away in his teens. But this has to be said. Just because you have a brother or have had a brother, in this case, doesn't mean other people can't fit in that role. And why that is a bad thing to you is interesting.
I get the feeling that our OP possibly sees it as her sister is trying to replace her brother.
Which is very sad because I don't think that's the case.
I don't think so either.
There's been many points in my life where I have a father, but I've had fatherly mentors in my life. They're not there to replace my dad, right? That's not how I looked at it. When someone's bettering their life and it feels like an attack on you and your values, that's when you need to start reassessing things. It's very unhealthy. So in my opinion, OP, you are the a-hole.
Well, the consensus on Reddit is that our OP is definitely the a-hole. And I would just like to point out a few things, especially since I've read through a lot of our commenters. First things, you can hurt your body by running too much. But that only really happens when you've been running for an extremely long time and pushing yourself beyond your body's natural limits. A lot of the times your joints will start to deteriorate and your knees start having problems. It's why they have the condition of runner's knee.
Yeah.
Now, as I've said, it doesn't sound like our OP's sister has had these types of problems. And it sounds like this might be the first time in her life that she's gotten more physically active. Now, additionally, not exercising is not good. Your heart and your lungs need to be used properly and not just walking from one room to the other, but actually walking. No different than your mind needs to be stimulated. Now, I have to say, a lot of commenters, and as you've put out there, Timstradamus, say that our OP sounds like she's being very jealous and kind of petty. Her sister's seeing gains in her life. And sure, it came from a negative point. She had a massive breakup. This relationship fell after 5 years. He says a really insensitive comment. And it really has the ball rolling in her direction. Regardless of where the motivation came from, her sister felt motivated. And rather than be happy for her sister, it feels like she's becoming a villain to her own family member, especially since our OP actually puts out there that she understands what it's like to have family members turn against them. As she put at the beginning, the pandemic really made them close together because the rest of the family kind of shunned them.
That's true.
I do have to say, when you were speaking about the brother and filling in certain roles doesn't mean replacing the family member that has already had that role in your heart. I have to wonder if our OP has that notion where guys and girls can't be friends. For a lot of women, when we say that the guys in our life are like brothers to us, it's because there's no romantic incentives between both parties. It really is just a platonic love where you feel close enough to them to probably speak on certain insecurities, and they provide that kind of support and advice that you would normally receive from a family member.
Getting perspective and everything that comes with the opposite sex, I think is important for a well-rounded person.
I definitely agree with that sentiment. Well, since we're talking about friends, let's go into our next story and see what you think about this one. Am I the a-hole for telling a female friend to shut up during what I thought was a civil beliefs debate? For context, I'm an atheist, and for the sake of those who are religious, I'll do my best not to offend or whatnot. I enjoy having debates and friendly arguments with friends who I've known for years about biblical, spiritual, and unknown things. trying to back each other up when necessary and defending ourselves with what is known, etc. About a week ago, I was having a debate with a female friend who was actually losing in terms of knowledge of her religion. I kept bringing verses up that she had never heard of, and I guess in a fit of frustration, she half yelled at me to stop acting like you know everything. I, at that point, wanted to match her sudden fervor, and I told her word for word to shut up. I'm talking. You don't really get to speak to me. From the Bible, it's, I do not permit a woman to speak or have authority over man. She hasn't spoken to me in a bit, and I know that while I am factually right, I don't know if I made the right decision there, and I feel bad. Am I the a-hole here, Reddit?
Well. Sounds like we're talking about youngish people.
I can neither confirm nor deny this.
Okay. I'm all for well-informed debates. You're not really in the debate field so much as wanting to feel superior to other people. I don't think that sounds like a debate to me. It sounds like you weaponize verses so that way you can corner people into thinking you're smarter than them.
I like this call out.
Maybe it's just me, but when I get around these people, you can almost feel the chaotic energy in the air, that they're not looking to actually have an honest conversation with you. They're just looking to measure you and then always find you lacking.
So essentially it's a win-lose and they want to win.
Always. That's not a debate. So in my opinion, just based off this surface level stuff, you're an a-hole. I hope for you that you learn from these people to maybe have a little bit of humility in your life, because you're going to find out that the people you think you're debating and having fun with, they're not having fun. Sometimes being right is being wrong.
Nicely put. Well, the consensus on Reddit is that our OP is definitely the a-hole. In fact, let me go ahead and read an edit that he put in his post. Our OP says, comments have confirmed to me, yeah, I fucked up. Really need to handle that better. Don't know how I'm going to apologize, but that's something I need to do. Thanks, Reddit. Additionally, let me go ahead and provide some perspective on my piece when it comes to debates. I have always been taught from my father that a debate is supposed to be a civil conversation of two different argument sets. And argument is not to be taken in the literal context of yelling. An argument is just having a discussion about something that one person believes that another one doesn't. Now, the three topics my father always taught me to stay away from, if you want conversation to stay civil, is politics, religion, and sex. Those are always the topics that tend to get people most heated. And a lot of times it's because of a moral foundation from one person to the next regarding those topics. If a conversation wants to be started with one of those topics, it's always suggested that when things start to get too heated, there needs to be a change in subject. You don't need to have to push points on each other. Then it stops being a debate. You're essentially just trying to pound in your win rather than actually have a decent conversation. And that's what commenters were saying here. Let me go ahead and read one commenter. They said, you're the a-hole. As someone who loves a good debate, a very important life lesson I have learned is that most people do not. While you found it civil, it sounds like your friend was feeling attacked and didn't want to have to stand up for what they believed in. Likely what you consider a friendly debate does not feel like a fun and inviting conversation to most people. Additionally, a lot of commenters actually put out there that this OP is actually pretty ignorant when it came to Bible verses. They said you're taking the context of the Bible so literally when a lot of the times it's interpretive. At that time, women weren't supposed to speak with an authority inside of a church. And specifically, that's where this verse had come from. But he's taken it out of context, and he's essentially told her that she's not allowed to speak at all.
Well, that's why I said it just sounds like he memorized verses and then weaponized them.
Well, hopefully he's learned, and I hope that he's read some of the comments when it came to these Redditors. Well, let's go ahead and dress up for our next story, shall we? Am I the a-hole for telling my niece she looked pretty? My 32 female stepsister, Kate, 34 female, has always had a complex about physical appearance. It caused a lot of issues for her and all of us over the years and stopped her and I really having a relationship. She got therapy in her mid-20s and eventually got to the point of what she calls aesthetic neutrality, which means she never comments on anyone's appearance, and we are asked not to comment on hers positively or negatively. Fair enough. She enforces this with her 7-year-old daughter, Zara, as well. She asked from the time Zara was born that we never make comments relating to Zara's appearance, even if it was nice things. Everyone in the family normally follows this. A few days ago, we were all visiting my parents' country house for the weekend, and Zara and my 5-year-old Anya were playing dress up. They came downstairs, and my daughter ran over to me and my husband to show us the outfit, and we said that she looked beautiful in her dress. My husband took Anya to get a snack, and Zara came over to me looking pretty dejected and asked if she looked pretty as well. Maybe it was just me being too soft, but I couldn't look at her and not answer, given that she'd asked me directly. So I said yes. Her face lit up and she left the room to get a snack as well. Kate immediately rounded on me, telling me I was undermining her parenting, and I know we're not supposed to make those kind of comments. She said disregarding her wishes as a mother was bad enough, but lying to Zara is even worse and is going to set her up for failure in the future if she measures everything by appearances when she isn't good looking. I understand where Kate is coming from. I really do, and I said as much, but I just didn't have the strength to say anything else when Zara was standing right there. Kate is now mad at me and saying she isn't sure she wants me babysitting until I can respect her choices on how to raise her kid. My stepdad and mother are on my side, but my husband says I probably should have just redirected Zara to her mother given what Kate is like, and I probably did mess up a little bit. Was I that wrong? Again, I do understand where Kate is coming from, but in the moment, I don't think I handled it terribly. Am I the a-hole?
So this one's a little gripping because as you're reading the story, I'm trying to put myself in the OP's shoes. She's sitting there and her daughter asks if she's beautiful. She says yes. Her niece comes over and looks sad and dejected and asks her if she also looks beautiful. As her uncle, of course I'm going to say you look beautiful. In that moment, are you really going to, in her husband's words, are you really going to redirect her to her mother? How would you do that? I don't get how you could walk through that scenario and still be supportive and not hurt your niece.
As an adult trying to support a child, it's understood, and it's really, if you don't understand this, you should try to actually grasp the concept that beauty is more than just skin.
It's very subjective and everyone has a different opinion on it. But I also get into this trap where you know how your sister feels. She's gotten therapy for this. This is definitely something that she's been dealing with her entire life. Unfortunately, it sounds like she's kind of bleeding it over to her daughter now, though. And I think that's when it gets scary. Understanding your faults as an adult and as a parent is important. I understand you're allowed to parent the way you want, but I think building up your child's self-esteem is important. And I don't know what ROP's sister has gone through that put her in this space, and I'm very sorry, but I would just be careful in letting the next generation carry that burden. It's not healthy. So in my opinion, I believe that the OP is not the a-hole. Continue to be the supportive aunt that it sounds like that girl needs. And your husband having the viewpoint of you should just deal is kind of interesting too. You definitely need to have a conversation with your sister, and she needs to be pointed in the right direction and maybe given some more counseling again on how to be a better parent, because I'm telling you, her putting that on her daughter isn't good and healthy for anybody.
Well, our consensus on Reddit is that our OP is not the a-hole. In fact, many commenters were shocked that her mother would essentially be calling her daughter ugly because of her own insecurities. But let me go ahead and actually read 2 commenters that I think provide us a little bit more perspective. The first commenter said, "My mom straight up called me ugly and fat. I wasn't. These mothers are just projecting hard and not seeing their children as their own people with wants and needs, but an extension of themselves. The daughters are a part of their ego. Calling them ugly makes them feel better and at the same time validates the way they treat their child. At least that's my opinion. Anyway, this woman is emotionally abusive to her child. I would just like to add, I'm very sorry that commenter had to deal with that, because truly, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. What one deems as beautiful, I might not see it that way, but the same could be the other way around. Additionally, let me go ahead and read this next commenter to you. They said, just wait till she's old enough to be interested in boys, and the slightest charming comment of any kind makes her have an unhealthy attachment.
Yep.
As for my perspective, I would say everybody's allowed to have their insecurities. As an adult, you have to work through them. We'll always have that understanding that we're trying to make ourselves better, and it's not always easy to cope or deal with some of the traumas and issues that we've had to deal with, especially concerning any type of bullying growing up. However, that doesn't make it okay for you to put those insecurities on a child.
100%.
Well, let's go to our last story, and I can't wait to talk to you about dream colleges. Am I the a-hole for going to a college at my cousin's dream school, even though he didn't get in?
No.
A throwaway account. The title is pretty clear. I don't think I'm in the wrong, but I could use a second opinion because I'm getting really annoyed with the drama. Basic context. I, 18 female, just got into a really good college. I'm there right now, sitting on my dorm room bed typing this. I have a cousin, 18 male, that also wanted to attend this particular school. He'd been talking about it since we were in middle school. He was absolutely positive he would get in, but didn't. Supposedly, my cousin had a full-on freak out when he got rejected, but I wasn't there for that. He got his email a few days before I got mine. My parents were overjoyed that I'd gotten in, and with a big scholarship, but as soon as my uncle, aunt, and cousin heard, they jumped on me immediately. Calls, texts, showing up at my parents' house uninvited, trying to convince me to give my spot to my cousin. He was livid that I was accepted, but he wasn't. I told him it was probably because I had a bunch of extracurriculars, and he didn't because he thought they were a waste of valuable study time. He said I didn't work as hard as him or get as good of grades as him and didn't deserve to go to this college, but he couldn't. I told him, tough shit, that's life. And he screamed that I'd probably just drop out anyways because I won't be able to handle it like he would. It got to the point that I just left my phone off and exclusively used my laptop for about a week because they wouldn't stop bugging me. Once they figured out that they wouldn't get me to give my cousin my acceptance, because I literally can't, that's not how acceptance works, they started trying to convince me to go to a different school. Since apparently this one can't actually be all that good if they couldn't even recognize a talented and smart person like my cousin, and that I'd probably be much happier at some other school. This went on until the day I left for school 3 weeks ago. The day I left, my cousin actually came to my parents' house just before I left and told me flat out that if I really went through with this, we weren't family anymore because he doesn't want to be related to someone that would be so willing to steal his dreams. Actual quote. I told him, okay, and got in my car. Now I'm all set up in my dorm. My roommate is fun as heck. Classes are going well and I'm really happy. My cousin still keeps posting angsty junk on his Instagram about dreams being false and hard work being BS that doesn't get you anywhere. It's annoying. So what do you guys think? Should I have gone to a different school? Am I the a-hole?
What a spasm with the bull! What bitterness does to people is disgusting. You couldn't just turn around and be happy for your cousin for getting in? All right, obviously it's heartbreaking, and we do have to put this into perspective. These are 18-year-olds. Everything is the biggest deal, and it will always be that way.
I remember it from when I was young, and I agree. However, there's a difference when you go that one step too far. And not only that, but his parents aren't even making the right steps.
Well, he wouldn't know any better because he wasn't taught any better. You learn how to handle the good and the bad from how they've shown you. She got in. Congratulations. Get on to the next part of life. It sounds like you've got a good roommate. Things are going well. I am shocked at the level that they were willing to go to. As if to say, when someone gets an acceptance letter and someone doesn't, that you could just go to that person and go, please let me take yours. Like it's a Willy Wonka chocolate factory ticket. Like it's an open-ended thing with no name on it.
It's just whoever buys that chocolate candy.
Just a quick Google search would have helped the parents. I'm not sure if this is in America or not, or maybe it does work like that in other parts of the world. But here in the US, that's not how that works. Then they double down and are like, well, don't go to that school because obviously they're not good enough to have seen that our child should have been in there. So we're doing it in your best interest by telling you not to go. And then he shows up the day you leave to basically lord over you that if you do this, we're not family. Please, I would have escorted you off my property the second you parked. Not letting you talk to my daughter like that, fool. Good on you, OP. Keep your head up. Keep moving. Don't let other people's victimhood sour your future.
Well, Redditor said our OP is not the a-hole. In fact, I find it funny that you liken this to Willy Wonka because a lot of Redditors liken this to the Hunger Games.
Yeah?
In fact, they said the cousin volunteers as tribute. Another one said, I don't think the odds will be in his favor. And last but not least, they said he's PITA, P-I-T-A, a pain in the ass, and not PETA. Now, let me go ahead and actually read an update from our poster. Our poster says, this got a lot more attention than I expected it to. Thanks for all the kind words and confirming that I am not the unreasonable one here. I'm gonna quickly answer some questions that have been asked by multiple people because replying to 100 separate comments sounds like a pain. 1. Where were your parents during all this? Trying to keep me distracted from the drama, taking me shopping for my dorm, getting my car checked out before I left, a celebration dinner with my grandparents, just trying to make sure I was still happy about my acceptance. 2. Did your cousin apply to any other schools? Yes, he did, but only because his guidance counselor told him to have at least one backup just in case. He did get accepted to his second choice school, but he's still salty. 3. What program did you pick? I'm doing videography. It's pretty competitive program, so I'm really lucky I got in. 4. Why haven't you blocked your cousin? This one is fair. I really should have a while ago. He stopped talking to me completely anyways, so it's not the worst idea. 5. What's the deal with your aunt and uncle? They're obnoxious. That's pretty much it. They're the type of people that think very highly of themselves, and it rubbed off on their son. They drilled it into my cousin's head for years that getting into a good college will set him up for life. And for those of you wondering if there's some sexism involved in these tantrums, the answer is no. I don't come from that kind of culture that prioritizes boys over girls. My family is just kind of weird. Again, thanks for the kind and funny words. Bye.
Bye. Good for you, OP. She kind of sums it up. Everyone's family is kind of weird. You have to deal with your own
quirks.
Yeah, eccentricities, those type of things.
I do have to say, I enjoyed reading her perspective. I feel the energy of her being excited for her next step in life, and I can feel the exasperation that she's dealing with when it comes to her cousin and her aunt and uncle. I have to say, keep doing you.
Yeah. Well, was that our last story?
That was our last story.
What a good one to end off with. I enjoyed that.
Good.
Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you've seen the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We regularly post on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We would also love to thank all of our patrons for your continued support.
Yes, we love and appreciate every single one of y'all. As always, listeners, we look forward to hearing your opinions in the comments below. What did you think about the stories today?
I hope these stories provided you a whale of a good time.
And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.